I stood in our bedroom as a pale morning light crept through the curtains, holding Isabel's silk scarf in my hands. It was soft, delicate, the kind of accessory she'd wear to a high-end hospital fundraiser or a night out with her colleagues. But at that moment, it felt like a dagger twisting in my gut. The scent hit me instantly. A strong, musky cologne that wasn't mine, clinging to the fabric like an unwelcome presence. At first, I brushed it off, telling myself it was nothing. Maybe she'd hugged a coworker at the hospital, someone with terrible taste in aftershave. But then I saw it. A lipstick stain, bold scarlet, smeared along the edge, a shade Isabel never wore. My stomach dropped. I stood there staring, my thoughts racing while my body remained frozen. 13 years of marriage, and this was how it all began to fall apart. Not in some dramatic confrontation, but in a quiet, gut-wrenching moment I couldn't ignore. I had been turning a blind eye to the warning signs for months. Her late nights at the hospital had become routine, her explanations vague. Extra shifts, paperwork piling up. I hadn't questioned her. I trusted her. She was a pediatrician, devoted to saving children's lives. And me? I was buried in my own work as a financial consultant, making sure our life in Ridgewood Heights stayed comfortable. We had a solid setup. A spacious house with a wraparound porch, Cole and Ava playing in the backyard. A marriage that appeared strong to anyone looking from the outside. But that scarf changed everything. I dropped it onto the dresser and turned away, only to spot something else. My shirt, the one she had thrown on last night after spilling wine on her dress, hung over the chair. I lifted it, and there it was, another lipstick stain, the same vivid red. My chest tightened. This wasn't just an affair. She was leaving clues, as if she wanted me to figure it out. I don't know how long I stood there, gripping the fabric, my thoughts spiraling. Down the hall, the kids were still asleep. Cole, 11, probably dreaming about baseball. Ava, 8, curled up with that stuffed bunny she never let go of. The house was quiet, but inside my head, there was nothing but chaos. How long had this been going on? Who was he? A doctor she worked with? A patient's father? My mind conjured images of her laughing with someone else, her fingers resting on his arm while I was home, making dinner for our kids. My throat burned. I wanted to storm upstairs, wake her up, demand the truth. But I didn't. Instead, I carefully placed the shirt back, smoothing out the wrinkles like nothing was wrong, and went downstairs to make coffee. And that's when the realization hit me. Isabel hadn't just betrayed my trust. She had shattered the foundation of us. And worse, she was daring me to do something about it. The rest of the morning blurred by. Isabel came downstairs, smiling as if nothing had changed, her hair still damp from the shower. "Morning, Adam," she greeted, wrapping her hands around her coffee cup like it was any ordinary day. I nodded, murmuring a response, but my eyes kept drifting to her neck. Was that cologne still on her skin? Did she even care if I noticed? She kissed the kids goodbye, grabbed her bags, and walked out the door. I stood at the kitchen window, watching her car pull out of the driveway, my hands gripping the sink. 13 years, 2 kids, a life I thought belonged to both of us, and now this. I didn't know what my next move was, but one thing was certain. I wasn't going to be played for a fool. Not anymore. That scarf, that lipstick, they weren't just evidence. They were the beginning of something I couldn't overlook, something that had the power to change everything I thought I knew about my wife, my family, and even myself. He'd lose it if he knew. And then the worst part, he still thinks we're just going through a rough patch. "Sad guy," Marcus responded. "At least he makes a great babysitter while you're with me." The words made my stomach drop. Felt like all the air had been sucked from the room. I sat there, staring at the screen, my heart pounding so loudly I could hear it in my ears. Each message was like a blade carving through 13 years of trust. Isabel wasn't just unfaithful. She was mocking me, laughing behind my back, reducing me to nothing more than an oblivious fool. Poor guy, that's what she called me. The same man who had stayed up with her during sleepless nights in med school, who had held her hand through the pain of childbirth, who had built his entire life alongside her. And now I was nothing but a joke. My grip on the phone tightened. For a fleeting moment, I wanted to hurl it against the wall, let it break apart like everything else. But I didn't. Upstairs, the shower shut off. The floorboards creaked under Isabel's steps. I placed the phone back exactly where I found it, turned to the coffee maker, and took a slow breath. Outwardly, I was steady. Inside, I was unraveling. A few minutes later, she walked into the kitchen, wrapped in a robe, her damp hair cascading over her shoulders. "Morning," she said casually. Reaching for her mug like this was any ordinary day. I handed her the coffee. "Morning." She smiled too quickly, the kind of forced grin you give a stranger in passing. I studied her face, searching for something. Guilt, hesitation, regret, anything. But there was nothing. She was calm, collected, as if she hadn't spent months deceiving me. I wanted to yell, demand answers. Who the hell is Marcus? How long has this been going on? But I said nothing. I simply stood there, sipping my coffee, letting the silence stretch between us. When she kissed me goodbye, it was faint, barely there. Then she walked out the door. I waited until her car disappeared down the driveway before heading into the bathroom, locking the door behind me. And then I hit the mirror. The glass shattered on impact. My knuckles split open, blood seeping from the wounds, but I didn't feel a thing. All I felt was rage. The rest of the day passed in a haze. I dropped the kids at school, went to my office, and stared blankly at my computer screen. Figures and charts blurred together, client investments, profit margins, none of it registered. All I could see were those texts. "When are you telling him?" She was planning to leave me, and Marcus knew. I replayed every interaction I'd had with him. I'd shaken his hand at hospital events, exchanged polite conversation. Had he been laughing at me then, too? And Isabel? How long had she been sneaking away to be with him? The Lakehurst mansion. She told me it was a work retreat last month. I had believed her. That same weekend, I had taken Cole and Ava to the park, played with them, tucked them into bed, and all along she had been with him. Him. My chest tightened. A brutal mix of anger and humiliation. I had trusted her completely, and they had turned me into a fool. By the time I got home, the kids were finishing their homework. I moved through the motions on autopilot, making dinner, chicken and rice, their favorite. Isabel texted late again. Hospital stuff. I didn't react. Once the kids were asleep, I sat alone in the dimly lit living room, letting it all sink in. She wasn't just having an affair. She was done with me, with us, and she had been stringing me along, waiting for the right moment to walk away. The messages proved it. Months of deceit, unraveling piece by piece, while I held everything together. The scarf, the lipstick, the cologne. None of it had been an accident. She had left them like breadcrumbs, daring me to follow. Maybe she wanted me to explode, to lash out, so she could paint me as the bad guy and walk away without guilt. But I wasn't going to give her that satisfaction. Not yet. I would stay quiet, observe, plan my next move. Because if Isabel thought she could shatter me and walk away smiling, she was dead wrong.